Hey guys, today I'm going to be reviewing House of the Dragon, Season 2, Episode 8, The Queen Who Ever Was. Okay, boy oh boy, do we have a lot to talk about and a lot to discuss. I have a feeling this episode is going to be very highly divisive among fans, book readers and non-book readers alike, let's be real. But yeah, before I do get going, as always, there is going to be spoilers galore in this video. So if you have not caught up with the latest episode of House of the Dragon, you might want to come back at a later point because I am definitely spoiling everything. Also, that being said, I am a non-book reader. I have read A Song of Ice and Fire by George R.R. Martin, but I have not read the Fire and Blood spin-off book, if you will, the prequel book, which this show is based off of. So I am not going to have book spoilers, obviously, in this video. But also, that being said as well, the thing is, I am very highly aware of what is to come in this show. I've already been spoiled pretty much about everything and all the big major deaths. But again, I am not going to sit and spoil any of that for other non-book readers. That certainly would not be fair of me to do so. Either way, let's just put it this way. I am sticking to just spoilers that we were given in this episode, okay? So yeah, let's get going, you guys. And we have a problem this week because my list of notes is atrocious. I usually just have like a page of notes, like front and back, and you guys, my page of notes, it verged into 2 pages this week, so we're in a bit of trouble. We got a lot to go through, a lot to hash out. This video is going to be pretty long, so I recommend you get you something to eat and you put playback speed on number 2 so you can get through this video as quick as possible because it's gonna be long. So I guess we'll just start this review with everything going on with Tywin Lannister and the Triarchy. And I think what I'm going to do, because there's just so many things that happen in quick succession throughout this entire episode, so I'm going to try and group certain things as best I can to kind of keep it all focused together. So I'm going to go ahead and deal with everything dealing with Thailand with the Triarchy. Let's go ahead and get all that wiped out. So as I said, Thailand, he goes to meet with the Triarchy like Aemond demanded he go do, and Thailand is just having a rough time here across the sea, if you will. He's not used to this warm climate. He's stressed out. None of these people like him. He doesn't like any of these people either. And it is this whole back and forth with Tywin and the Triarchy is pretty great. It's pretty hilarious. The Triarchy does not care for Westerosi bullshit whatsoever. And I want to talk about the design of the Triarchy, because I know even in A Song of Ice and Fire, like when Daenerys is meeting with, people, in Essos and all those places, a lot of the people of like Bravos and Pentos and all those various different places, a lot of people are described as being really flamboyant looking, and their hair is colorful, their clothing is colorful. And the thing is, in A Song of Ice and Fire, we never really got that with any of those type of characters, because like Dario, for instance, I know in the book Dario, if I'm remembering correctly, Dario is described as having like a colorful beard. I can't remember what color it is in the book, but in the show, obviously, Dario did not look like that at all. They just had him looking normal. So I love that this show did what Game of Thrones never did, which was make the Triarchy really flamboyant and colorful. And I kind of really like that, because if you're looking around at the crowd, their clothing is definitely much more colorful than like the people of Westeros. Yeah, their hair is colored, their beards are colored, they have like crazy braids and all of that, so I definitely give all of the kudos to like the makeup and costume designer for the look of the Triarchy and the pirates and all these people, so it was pretty great. I loved it. And yeah, Thailand looking so out of place. And I love this line of dialogue because he's sitting there talking with, I guess, some of the leaders of the Triarchy, and they're sitting there saying to him, "You need us more than we need you," which is obvious. That is straight up truth right there. Team Green is very desperate for some sort of support. Not only do they need to just break the blockade in general because the people are starving, and that's just not a good look on Team Green. Not only does the blockade need to be blocked, but yeah, they, after what happened at the end of last week's episode and Aemond seeing that Rhaenyra has way more dragons than initially thought, they all realize they need a bit more of like manpower support other than the dragons. So there's a lot going on here that Team Green really desperately needs. But the Triarchy, they are good business people in their own way as well. They're saying, if you want this blockade taken down, we want the stepstones. And we know how that whole thing went down last season, how hard Daemon worked to get the stepstones. And now the Triarchy's like, well, we want it back. And again, Tylan, the heat is getting to him. He's stressed out. I think more than anything, he's worried about going home empty-handed and just dying. Aemond just decapitating him as soon as he arrives back home. So Tylan has to make decisions here, and very quick, snappy decisions, whether or not Aemond is going to like those decisions or not. So it's putting poor Tylan in a really tricky, uncomfortable, vulnerable place, which was great. And I wish I had rewatched the scene in better detail because there was so much happening. I do think they do initially give Tylan some sort of support, because I think he does say he's going to give them the stepstones, doesn't he? And they're saying, well, you need to do one more additional step here, and if you want the Triarchy to move forward, you also need to get the support of Admiral Lohar. So we are introduced to Admiral Lohar in this moment. He just comes walking in, and Tylan's all like, okay. And Admiral Lohar straight up says to Tylan, hey, I'm not going to sail with you. My people are not going to sail with you. I won't sail with a man who can't best me. So Tylan's like, well, what the hell do you mean by that? So yeah, one of the next sequences we get in the episode with Tylan and Lohar have a mud battle to fight it out for dominancy, I suppose. And Tylan, he's taking it like a champ. He's taking all them punches, and he finally does get one good jab at Lohar and knocking Lohar down. And Lohar is definitely impressed. You can definitely see Lohar is pretty impressed by kind of this puny man from Westeros who pretty much has no good training, it seems. What I liked about Tylan's scenes with the Triarchy and with Admiral Lohar, they're just humorous and comedic. They're a nice bit of levity in this whole episode that is really dark and dramatic and angsty and everybody just all over the place. And I liked that little subtle cannibalism joke, because Lohar is saying something like, hey, you can come dine with us and dine on the flesh of our enemies, or something like that. I can't remember how it was worded. And Tylan is like, oh my god, are you serious? I'm about to commit cannibalism, my god. but the Lohar is like, oh, I jest, ha ha ha. So I love that whole thing, and yeah, Tylan's absolute relief that he doesn't have to eat human flesh, oh god. So then the last sequence that we get with Lohar and Tylan, it's a celebration dinner, it looks like, and entertainment and feasting, getting prepared that within the next day or two they're going to be heading out, it seems. And is it me? I definitely was getting vibes that Lohar was totally flirting with Tylan. And Tylan was just a little confused about the whole thing, you could tell. And at one point Lohar was like, oh yeah, I want to have children with you. I want you to sleep with all of my wives. So Tylan's like, how many wives you got? So Tylan either had the best night of his life, having an orgy, or he had the worst night of his life and he's prepared to go back to King's Landing and kill Aemond himself for putting him through this ordeal. Either way, as we see at the very, very end of this episode, Tylan's mission was very successful for Team Green, and he's coming back with the Triarchy and all these ships, all these men. That's kind of how we leave Lohar and Tylan here at the episode. Okay, so we knocked all of that out of the way. You know what? I'm going to go ahead and talk about Raina really quickly because I'm worried I'm going to be looking here through my notes and I'm just going to totally forget about Raina. Let's go ahead and knock Raina out of the way. Raina has about 4 different sequences in this episode, and they're all about like a minute each, and they don't really entirely go anywhere, unfortunately. Poor Raina, poor girl. Really, what we saw last week's episode, Raina, she knows that Lady Jane Eyre was lying to her about a big dragon in the Vale. So Raina's making her mission like, I'm gonna go hunt this dragon down. I'm tired of being a pawn in this game. I want to be useful and helpful. So she's taking it upon herself to go track down this dragon, and it's kind of like a suicide mission for her because I think she knows good and well I'm either going to come out of this on top or I'm going to go down swinging. At least I did something, you know. That I think that's kind of her mindset at the moment. So yeah, the whole episode, like I said, we have about 4 different sequences of Raina. She's tracking down this dragon. She's out in the elements. She's tired. She's thirsty. She's hungry. She's cold at one point. It looks like her shoes are falling apart, which I find hard to believe. You know, this girl is pretty rich. I feel like she should have better shoes that they don't fall apart after like a day. And yeah, Raina does find this mysterious dragon at the very end of the episode, and it was a wee bit frustrating watching this whole thing because for the past couple episodes, it's like we've been getting these hints that Raina is going to get this dragon. But yeah, she does finally come across the dragon. They stare each other down. But yeah, does she claim the dragon? What happens there exactly? Like I said, I've not read the books, but I understand that Raina's character has been meshed with another character from the book, and that the show is kind of adapting this character and making it Raina instead. So my assumption is Raina probably has bonded with this dragon. I mean, what would be the point of having her die in this moment? You know, I'm going to assume she has bonded with this dragon, and she's gonna, like, in maybe the season premiere or something, she's probably gonna pop up on this dragon riding it and shock and surprise everybody. That's going to be my prediction right there. But yeah, that's it with Raina. Seriously, the dragon trainers, they were there with like little baby dragons, and then, you know, like the nannies were there with Rhaenyra's little kids. They all just started walking away. Did any of them ever sit and ponder, oh no, we lost a princess, we're missing a princess, you guys, where did she go? Does anybody care about poor Raina and her disappearance? Okay, you guys, let's talk about Aemond. We also, kind of at the start of the episode, we see that Aemond has burned down this town called Sharp Point. And Sharp Point is part of like the Black faction, that they support Team Black, because I think someone on her council, they're like the lord of this place, if I'm not mistaken. So we see that Sharp Point has been brutally burnt down and decimated, and there's Aemond on Vagar just looking at this whole thing. It's kind of hard to tell what he's kind of thinking in this moment, like, because you're definitely getting the idea that Aemond burned Sharp Point as a point of retaliation and revenge. It seems he just did it for the hell of it, after the shock of his life seeing all those dragons on Dragonstone. So this is what he has inflicted pretty much as a result. But there's also this there's almost this look that passes over his face, like he feels kind of bad that he did it. You know, that things have kind of come to this, that he was forced to do this to this town when he kind of really didn't want to, but he did it anyway, you know, because that's just the type of character he is. So we move from that quick shot and we go to this really wonderful sequence with Larys and Aegon. And Larys, he just gets right down to business quickly, saying to Aegon, hey, your brother has just burned down this town, all hell's about to break loose, we need to get the hell out of here. So Larys, I think Larys has been planning this for a while. You know, just the way he was interacting with Maester Orwell in the last episode, I get the feeling that Larys has been thinking and plotting this out for a while. if him and Aegon got to get out of here before things get a little too wild and crazy and unpredictable. Because now that Rhaenyra does have all these new dragons and Aemond is just running around killing people willy-nilly, this whole thing has turned very unpredictable at the moment. And Larys is pretty much saying, hey, let's get out of here. Let the blacks and the greens battle it out, and we'll see who the last man standing is, and then that's when we'll come back and you'll take back your rightful throne. It also gives you time to heal up and come to your senses. And I like this whole conversation because Larys, he has it all figured out, you know, and it sounds great. And poor Aegon, in the meantime, Aegon, he's just full of so much self-pity, because he keeps interjecting every so often, like, yeah, I'm ugly looking, I can't even walk, I'm peeing all over myself, my privates have exploded in the fire apparently, I've lost Sunfire. The big shocking reveal that Sunfire is dead, you guys. Oh my god, is that accurate information? I just can't, I can't process that Sunfire is dead. No. So yeah, poor Aegon is just, he is just miserable, he's suffering, he doesn't understand how running away is going to do anything. What use is he at this point? He's definitely terrified of his brother at this point, you know. Aemond very subtly threatened him. He didn't say the words out loud, hey, if you get up from this bed, I'm going to kill you, but that's pretty much what he implied. So yeah, Aegon is absolutely terrified of what is to come, and I think there's a part of him, he wants to live, you know, he doesn't want to die, but the state that he's in, it's like he wants to die because of that alone, you know. So it's like he's in a very precarious situation that he wants to live, but he also wants to die, because how is he supposed to go through life in the state that he's in? And Larys, being the ever wonderful manipulator and using language to his advantage, he really starts luring Aegon into this whole thing of, hey, we run away, we come back, we take everything, and he starts saying, oh, when you come back, and you fix everything, you're going to be Aegon the Peacemaker, you're going to be Aegon the Rebuilder. And you can kind of see that light kind of coming into Aegon's eyes, like, oh, I kind of like the idea of that, and coming back and fixing things, and then everyone will love me, you know. He just wants to be loved, you know. Aegon wants to be loved and admired and looked at, and yet he even says, oh, to himself, he's like, oh, I could be Aegon, the realm's delight, you know, which is what Rhaenyra was initially. He wants to take that away from Rhaenyra. So we end that wonderful sequence right there with Larys and Aegon and the potential that holds. So we move into this really great sequence where Jace walks into, you know, their one main room, and there's Ulf and Hugh kind of sitting around the table, and Ulf has his feet up on the table, you guys, my god. And Jace is having none of this. We already know that Jace is very highly frustrated with what went down last week's episode, because he feels like his status and his position and his place is in jeopardy. And the thing too of, you know, his Targaryen blood, even though he knows he is a bastard, the thing is, he is still half Targaryen, and that still gave him a dragon. And we know how the Targaryens look at their dragons. It's very sacred to them, and it makes them feel like they are gods and that they are very important. So yeah, the fact that people like Ulf and Hugh and Adam, you know, the lowborn, the common people, the fact that they have Targaryen blood in them, and that they are claiming these dragons, it's frustrating and it's upsetting to Jace. Like, well, what's the point now? You know, what is the point of me if anybody can just get on these dragons now? There's nothing special about me, because what made me special was my mother, essentially, and that the Targaryen half that I got from her, and the fact that gave me a dragon. But now all these other people have dragons, you know. So yeah, Jace is just not having any of it, and yeah, he's really pissed off with Ulf especially. Ulf, I'll go, oh my god, guys, I don't know how to feel about Ulf after this episode, because I have been really highly enjoying Ulf as a character, because he's a nice bit of comedic relief, and he's definitely comedic relief in this episode as well, but at the same time, I found him very highly annoying, and I think Ulf, again, I've not read the books, so I don't know what's going to happen. I find that I think Ulf is going to be a problem. Yeah, guys, I'm predicting Ulf is going to be a huge, massive problem moving forward, because in this whole sequence, and then, you know, some of the later sequences we get, Ulf is very just cocky and arrogant all of a sudden, you know, like, hey, I have a dragon, I'm great, all of you should just bow down before me, you know. He's thinking very highly of himself. It's like he was already putting on that show in the tavern with his friends, you know, really trying to make more of himself. And now it's, he has that confirmation that, oh, I am more, you know. So it is, I think it's all going to Ulf's head, and not in a good way. And I definitely liked Hugh, because Hugh has a lot more respect. I think he has a lot more respect for everything that has just happened, and he's grateful, I think, is the thing. And yeah, Hugh is not sitting there around the table with his feet propped up on the table, you know. And then even later with Rhaenyra, he speaks very respectfully to Rhaenyra. And yet, even at this moment, speaking to Jace, Hugh speaks very respectfully to Jace, and he knows who Jace is. And yeah, oh god, Ulf, he just stands up, he goes and hugs Jace, like, hey, we're family, bro. And yeah, touches his hair, like, oh, your hair is dark, who would have thought, you know? Like, everybody knows he's a bastard. Even the bastards know he's a bastard. So this whole sequence with Jace walking into this room with Ulf and Hugh, it's so uncomfortable, it's so awkward. Yeah, I mean, even Hugh's off to the side the whole time, like, oh god, you know. Yeah, seriously, I feel like Ulf is going to be a massive problem, you guys. Over familiar, that's the word I wrote in my notes here. Ulf is very over familiar, is the thing. And again, Jace is mentioning the whole thing of a sacred inheritance, and you're ruining it here with your decorum and how you're treating it. Jace tries to shame Ulf a little bit, because he does bring up sharp point what Aemond just did, and because Ulf, I don't think Ulf really entirely understands how big this whole thing is at the moment, you know, how important these dragons are for the war, because he's just thinking more about position and status and money right now. He's not thinking about the fact that he has to go out there and have to go kill people and claim towns in the name of Rhaenyra. And yeah, Jace is trying to shame him, like, hey, this is what has happened to Sharp Point, and yet here you are, you're sitting around in sloth and unreadiness, because will you even have it in you to commit atrocities in the name of Rhaenyra for her to get the throne, you know, in order for you to have status and position at the end of the day. So we leave that sequence and we go to Rhaenyra and Corlys. Rhaenyra openly admits to Corlys, I'm not quite sure about these new dragon riders. They're untested. We're not entirely sure of their backgrounds, who they really are as people. You know, we just met these people, for the love of God. But she does feel a lot more confident about Adam, it sounds like, especially because Adam was under the employ of Corlys, and Corlys can vouch for Adam. Again, no mention that, hey, that's my bastard son. Corlys, shame on you, man. So yeah, Adam, I think, is good to go. Rhaenyra feels pretty comfortable with Adam, I get the impression. But yeah, Ulf and Hugh, I think she's going to have to do a lot of wheedling, you know, trying to figure out who they are. We finally get to see Corlys act as the hand of the queen in this episode. I feel like he's not gotten much to do, you know, as far as being the hand of the queen. So he is urging Rhaenyra that they need to strike now, while they have these dragons, while Aemond is not entirely prepared. And Corlys does mention, hey, we are forgetting another dragon rider that is at Aemond's disposal, and that would be Helena. And Rhaenyra just instantly kind of brushes it off, like, oh, no, Helena would never get on that dragon. She's not prone to war. She's not a warrior. I really wonder if this was set up, like all of a sudden Helena is going to become a badass, like in season 2. I don't know. I'm just really curious, but because yeah, Rhaenyra, she just brushes it aside about Helena and Dreamfire, and yeah, again, the mention of Aemond being desperate at this point. This episode should have been called "Aemond is Desperate." Because he just goes into a full-on panic in this episode, which was really great to see. And we kind of move from all of that, and we get Corlys. He has renamed his ship because it was called the Sea Snake, and he has renamed it to the Queen Who Never Was, in honor of his dead wife Rhaenys, who he rather mistreated in some ways. You know, we know he lied to her about some things, unfortunately, and they never got to have their proper conclusion with each other. So yeah, he's saying to Rhaenyra, what I do now, I do for her, but yeah, my ships, we serve you. And yet no big crazy argument between Corlys and Rhaenyra, because I think we, the viewer, have been expecting it for there to be some sort of breakdown between Rhaenyra and Corlys with what happened to Rhaenys, and we've never really got that. So yeah, Corlys, he kind of just ends it like, I don't want to get into an argument with you about anything. What is, what happened, has happened. We're just going to move on because we don't have time to dwell in the past. Okay, so a couple episodes ago, we know that Alfred Broom was sent to go deal with Daemon at Harrenhal. So we finally see Broom arrive at Harrenhal to, you know, figure out what Daemon's intentions are, where his loyalties lie. And we know that Alfred Broom, he totally supports Team Black, but he makes it pretty clear to Daemon that I do support Team Black, but Rhaenyra has made some mistakes and some decisions and some choices that I don't entirely agree with. And I think what we need right now is not a queen, but a king. So Broom comes in there pledging his loyalty more to Daemon, like, hey, if you want to take everything for yourself, I'm here for you, buddy. And of course, Simon Strong overhears this whole thing, and of course, Simon Strong is really concerned. So we move to a really quick sequence of Lord Jasper and Aemond. They're just kind of walking through the halls really quickly, you know, hashing out some stuff. And Lord Jasper does mention the whole thing about, you know, how a lot of the small folk got out of King's Landing to begin with, that Rhaenyra sent a bunch of boats and everyone snuck out. So Aemond's like, well, we're going to close the ports now. We're not going to have any more people leaving. But how does that go, Aemond? How does that go? Because we see at the end, Alicent got out somehow. She got a boat somehow. So again, Aemond being very desperate. He's closing off the ports now. The people are starving. The people are angry. They're not happy. It's not a good look for Team Green whatsoever. Again, Aemond's absolute desperation at this point. Okay, so we move into one of my personal favorite scenes of this episode, you guys. Well, two. I have two scenes in particular. We'll kind of get to it, but yeah, one of my top favorite scenes is definitely this one where we have Helena, Alicent, and Aemond, who walks in eventually into the conversation. So Helena and Alicent, they're just, you know, they're getting ready for bed, and Helena just so confused about what the hell is even going on. Like, you know, why do the people hate us when Rhaenyra is kind of the one behind everything, you know? She's saying to Alicent, I was happier before I was queen, which I totally believe that. Poor girl, Jesus. And Alicent is even suggesting, you know, what if we got out of here? And Helena's like, well, where would we go? What would I do? So the conversation gets cut abruptly right here because in comes Aemond, and Aemond is just very forceful. This is the most forceful we've seen him with anybody in his family. Again, those cracks, his desperation, he just wants to get right into things. And Aemond, he's grabbing Helena and saying, hey, we gotta go, sis. I need you on Dreamfire. We gotta go burn down places. And Helena, we've always gotten the impression Helena is the most gentle out of all of the Hightower Targaryen siblings. She doesn't want war or bloodshed. She just wants to be herself with her bugs and her visions and her daughter now, you know. And Helena's like, I don't want to kill anybody, and I'm not going to let you just force me into killing people. And like I said, Aemond is very forceful in this whole situation, and I love this whole back and forth, and you know, Alicent in the middle of her her two children. I thought something bad was going to happen here for a minute. Someone was going to get hurt. I thought Helena was going to get hurt somehow. But yeah, and Aemond is angry. Alicent's angry. Helena is confused and scared and frightened. I doubt Aemond has ever grabbed her and abused her in this manner before. In Aemond's eyes, Aemond does not see Team Green as the villains, and I really like this writing with Team Green in general, because Team Green obviously see themselves as the good guys and the rightful rulers of Westeros, you know, and yet Aemond most certainly does not see himself as a villain, which I love, and he is saying, you know, hey, this is our birthright with these dragons, and it's been defiled after what Rhaenyra has done, letting common folk get on these dragons. It's like he kind of feels the same how Jace feels, you know. And yeah, the commons, they have been raised as dragon lords, which is a load of crap. He doesn't like it. And he ends this whole thing like, we are in peril. What do you not understand? Our lives are in danger. And Alicent, she fires back at him, are we in peril? Exactly. Or is it just fury at your own humiliation? Ooh, burn. Hightower burn. And she continues to say to him, everything that you're doing, does it make you feel strong to kill, you know, innocent people and burn down all of these villages and towns? And now you seek to corrupt your own sister? My God. Seriously, I love this whole sequence, you guys. And Aemond just ends the whole thing saying, our lives are threatened. Again, what do you not understand, mother? And I believe him, you know, I believe Aemond. He sees his family as the good guys. He sees himself as the good guy. Everything he is doing is for his family and for the sake of keeping themselves in power. So we move from that. Alicent goes to Maester Orwyle, and she's like, hey, buddy, I need your help. I need safe passage, and I need some discretion. Do not let Aemond know what we're about to do. And that's how we kind of end that sequence with what does she have planned? And poor Maester Orwyle, seriously, I love Maester Orwyle. He just wants to live in peace, you know, do his business, and just how everybody always treats him and putting him in really rough, tough situations. My God. Okay, so let's move into another of my favorite sequences, and this was with Gawain and Kristen Cole. Yeah, guys. Yes, we've missed Kristen Cole for like an episode now, so it was nice to get this lengthy scene with Kristen Cole. And a really poignant, powerful scene, you guys. Seriously, Fabian Frankel's performance in just this one scene. He's just sitting on a log. He's just sitting on a damn log the whole sequence, and it was just some incredibly powerful, moving stuff, and I loved it. Gawain, I think we've gotten the impression Gawain knows there is something going on between his sister and Kristen Cole, and Gawain just finally erupts, and he goes after Kristen Cole, puts his sword up to Kristen Cole like, hey, I know you fucked my sister, how dare you, that's treason, you're part of the Kingsguard, you're not supposed to be doing things like that. And I just love Kristen Cole's, just his whole demeanor in this sequence, because he's not frightened or terrified, he's just very accepting to this whole accusation, you know, because it is true. What's the point of denying it and lying about it? He knows that he has done something shameful. He's a hypocrite. He knows it. And I liked how this sequence just allowed Kristen Cole to just let it all out. You know, the freedom to finally just release everything that has built up in him. Everything with Alicent, everything that happened at Rick's Rest, his own place and all of this, and he's just laying it out for Gawain, saying, you know, your sister, she was a beacon for me, she is a beacon for me, she saved my life twice, I owe her. And he does admit, hey, I'm full of shame, I'm not going to deny that, I've done some terrible shitty things. And I definitely ended up writing down so much of his dialogue because it was so beautiful. Seriously, the writing for this sequence in particular was just absolutely gorgeous, you guys. And Kristen Cole says at one point, you know, all men are corrupt. True honor is a mist that melts in the morning. Seriously, it's just so Shakespearean sounding, you guys. And Gawain, kind of just listening to this whole thing, you can tell that Gawain is softening over the course of this whole conversation. You know, that he's finally starting to understand Kristen Cole, and that Kristen is just a human man. You know, he is a human, flawed man. And I think Gawain respects that. I think he respects that Kristen is just being open and honest, and he's not denying his mistakes or his flaws. And Gawain responds after a lot of this, he goes, well, that's a bleak philosophy. And Kristen's like, well, yeah. And again, I had to keep writing down so much of these wonderful lines of dialogue. And Kristen continues, the dragons dance and men are dust at their feet. We march toward our annihilation. To die will be a kind of relief, don't you think? Oh, wow. Yeah, Kristen in this whole sequence, I feel like Kristen, he's in a rather Shakespearean suicidal mood, very Hamlet, to be or not to be sort of thing, it felt like. Kristen, he knows he's flawed, he's a hypocrite, he's done terrible things. It's like he's in this moment, he's prepared to die. It's like he's very accepting of his death, it seems. If I'm to die, so be it. And yeah, the whole thing, what I saw at Rook's Rest, what is the point of manpower on the ground? We keep revisiting that whole thing. What is the point of manpower when the dragons are up there doing their thing, fighting each other, and then at the same time destroying all of us on the ground? And yeah, he saw the destruction that happened at Rook's Rest, and it makes you wonder, what's going to be the point of the triarchy? The triarchy's coming, what's going to be the point of that? Because the dragons can just come on in and burn the ships down, And so it is, this whole thing, it's very bleak, Kristen's whole look here, it's very bleak but real. And I love that. Again, he's in a very suicidal mood, it seems, and an acceptance of his death, and yeah, to die will be a kind of relief, like, I just want this to end. Just please let it end so I can just move on. And I think Gawain, I think, can kind of understand and sympathize with that point of view, because Gawain is probably going to his death too. He's probably going to his death too, and he's scared and frightened. He's not as accepting as Kristen is. So it's this whole sequence, you guys, seriously, it was a beautiful sequence. Thank you, Fabian Frankel. I'm just so glad they gave Fabian Frankel this wonderful sequence, these wonderful lines of dialogue. Okay, so we move to Bela and Jace, and Jace is sulking, you guys. I always love Bela when she goes to Jace, and she just kind of snaps him out of his funk, like, hey, you need to grow up. And she's trying to get him out of his sulk, and basically like, hey, you get out of your sulk and go support your mother. Do your job. That's what your job is. And he's sitting there telling to her, talking about Hugh and Ulf. They are an insult to what makes us Targaryens. And Bela's like, well, who cares? Seriously, who cares? I don't care that you're a bastard. You're still a Targaryen. You are still your mother's heir. That's all that matters. And she even tells him that because of his attitude and his behavior, he's really just diminishing himself. He's diminishing himself when he doesn't really need to. Prove you are worthy. Yes, go girl. Yes, give Jace some much needed words of advice and comfort, because he desperately needs it, because he's not in the mood right now. So we move from that and we go into the Dragon Riders dinner, you guys. And Rhaenyra is sitting there all dressed up and with her crown, and we have Adam and Ulf and Hugh and Jace. Is there somebody else at the table? I swear, I think there's somebody else at the table. I can't remember who else is at the table. So they're all sitting there enjoying their dinner, and Ulf, you guys, oh my god, again, Ulf is just so annoying as hell in this sequence. His arrogance, his cockiness, his overfamiliarity about things, and again, Adam and Hugh being far more respectful and kind of understanding their place, like, hey, we are still low-born. Yes, we got these great positions all of a sudden, but we're still low-born. This is still our queen. We can't just sit and say and do whatever we like. And yet Ulf is just over there demanding more drink and more food. It's all just so highly uncomfortable. And going back to the conversation Rhaenyra had with Corlys, we don't know who these people are. They just kind of fell right into our laps. And yeah, this dinner, she is seeing kind of their true personalities, especially Ulf's personality, and this is what she has to work with, and she has to deal with that. And Rhaenyra does promise them that she's going to make them like lords and knights or whatever, when all this is kind of said and done. And she's going to give them status and position as thanks for their service. It is a question to ponder. Does she even expect them to all come out of this alive once this whole war is over, you know? I wouldn't be surprised if she's kind of making empty promises at this point, you know, thinking, well, if they kind of die along the way, so be it, as long as they are able to take out some of my enemies along the way. And yeah, she's basically saying, I'll give you all these great things as long as you show your fealty and loyalty to me and respect to the role that you have been raised to. That's just it. She's seeing, especially Ulf, how Ulf is kind of treating this whole thing. And again, Jace even saying, you know, dragon riding, it's a sacred inheritance. Our bond with these dragons is sacred. And Ulf just, he doesn't understand that at the moment. You know, he's really making kind of less of it in some ways. And Rhaenyra gives them the shock of their life because she's like, hey, I need you to learn quickly here. You need to learn your commands. You need to suit up. You need to get familiar with your dragons because, hey, in 2 days, we're striking. And you could see they're all like, what? The seriousness of the situation finally hits them all. Yeah, I think Hugh with Vermithor, I think Hugh is going to have a pretty easy time with things because I think Hugh is much more serious. You know, he's much more serious and he's taking this whole situation much more seriously than Ulf is. I mean, goddamn, if Ulf is the first to go, I wouldn't be shocked. And I think it's Adam who mentions, well, what about Vhagar? What exactly are we supposed to do about Vhagar? Because they all know Vhagar is the biggest, most fierce dragon. That is their biggest threat right now. And Rhaenyra, again, kind of doing what she did last week with all of the Targaryen bastards, you know, really kind of downplaying certain things. And she's like, oh yeah, Vhagar is fierce, but with all of you together, you can take her down, you know, like she's not really being entirely honest with them about Vhagar, you know, the threat that they face. And it's like, I think they need to understand that a little better. You know, they need to understand the threat of Vhagar. They all need to realize they need to work together in order to take down Vhagar. And again, Ulf being really overconfident, like, oh yeah, I'll take down Vhagar, no problem. And the thing is, I think next season when we get this big showdown, because I'm assuming there's going to be some sort of big showdown with Silverwing and Vhagar and Vermithor, you know, I think Ulf is going to get the big shock of his life when he realizes that the dragon riding, it's hazardous, and you can die very quickly, you know, just like that. So while they're having this dinner, the maester comes up to Rhaenyra and he's like, hey, Simon Strong has sent a message and you might need to head over to Harrenhal because Daemon is up to something and Simon Strong is a little concerned. So we move to Harrenhal and we get into a sequence that is pretty insane, you guys. Daemon it looks like he's napping or something, and Alice is just casually sitting on the edge of Daemon's bed, you guys, and was she crying? It looked like she was crying. I'm very curious about all that. So what we get with this whole sequence, kind of what it feels like, it seems like Alice, it's like she knows that Daemon is ready now to kind of see what the bigger, larger picture is, because she's been telling Daemon for a couple episodes now, hey, there are bigger things at play in this world than all of us. There's more magical, mystical things out there, and you are just a pawn in this larger game. So it seems like she's been trying to get Daemon in this headspace for him to finally see this wild and crazy vision that he's about to see. When he first arrived at Harrenhal, he was nowhere near ready to accept that, you know. Daemon is very arrogant and self-sure of himself, self-obsessed at times, yeah, wanting the throne, wanting the crown, you know. I think even he is confused half the time about that. So yeah, Alice sitting on the bed crying, it's like, I think she's kind of like Helena, you know. I think Alice can see things as well to some degree, and it's like, I think she knows what it is exactly Daemon is about to see, and it's not good. So Daemon and Alice head out to the weirwood tree, and Daemon puts his hand on the tree, and this is where we get a mind-blowing sequence of like visions. Some of it makes sense, some of it doesn't. If you've seen Game of Thrones, you know, it's like you know what a lot of it is. So I'm just going to run down everything we see in this vision really quickly. We see the three-eyed raven. Is it Bran? Who knows? I wouldn't be surprised at this moment that Alice and Helena and Bran, they're all having this vision at the exact same freaking time. Yeah, guys. So yeah, we're seeing the three-eyed raven. We're seeing the White Walkers. Yeah, guys. We're seeing a dead dragon. We're seeing like just this muddy puddle of dead bodies. Daemon falls through a puddle and we see him drowning. He's floating in the water. We see Daenerys. Yeah, guys, we see Daenerys from the back. You know how season 1, episode 10 ended with Daenerys with her naked and she has her 3 dragons, you know. We see that iconic shot, but from behind. Yeah, we see Rhaenyra on the throne. And then all of a sudden, in this dream, just so shocking, you guys, Daemon turns around and there's Helena, of all people, speaking to him. And she's sitting saying, it's all a story and you are but one part of it. Goddamn, you guys. Wow. Who would have thought Daemon would be like, oh my god, I've seen every other person in the world. I was not expecting to see Helena. So that does move into the whole next sequence with Aemond and Helena, but yeah, let's kind of hash out what we just saw here with Daemon. It's just so fascinating, you know. Daemon getting to see all of this and the importance of all of this, even if he doesn't entirely understand what any of it means. The thing is, though, this is enough for him to finally come to his senses, which is what we have been needing Daemon to do all damn season. And again, we see Daemon looks like he's drowning. Is he seeing his possible demise, his possible death? Who knows? So yeah, I think that ties in really wonderfully with how we kind of merge into now Helena and Aemond, because the prophecy still kind of continues. And we see Helena, she's on the balcony, and as Daemon's thing is kind of winding down, we see Helena say, you know what you must do. So it's like, in this moment, what is happening with Daemon, with the weirwood tree, and then Helena on the balcony? We immediately get the idea this is all happening simultaneously. This one night is the same exact night. It's not like 2 different random nights or anything. It is the exact same night, and it's happening at the exact same time, which is so fascinating, so great. It's like we're getting to see what Helena sees, because Helena never makes any sort of sense. You know, she kind of gives out vague things that happen later, you know, like, oh, he has to close an eye, and yeah, Aemon loses an eye a couple episodes later, you know. So Helena's always saying just these wild and crazy things that don't make any sense to us, but they definitely obviously make some sort of sense to her. And what's so fascinating about this whole sequence with Aemond and Helena, this is probably the most present we have ever seen Helena, you guys, because Helena always seems to be very kind of dreamlike. You know, she just always seems to be really dreamlike and just off in her own universe, her own world, and she's never entirely there. So yeah, this is like the most present she has ever been, and it's making me wonder if she has kind of finally maybe embraced and accepted her own visions at this point. She is much more aware of them, you know. On the balcony, this is another of my top favorite scenes. Yeah, guys, I freaking loved this sequence. It was so great. Wonderful acting by Ewan Mitchell and Fia Saban, you guys. And Jesus Christ, these two are just way too pretty. There is way too much pretty on this balcony with the long, gorgeous white hair, you guys, from both of these characters. It is too much. It is too much pretty. I loved it. So Aemond, you know, he walked into Helena's room earlier on a mission, and very businesslike, you know, and he was really aggressive. He walked into that situation very aggressive. So this time around, Aemond, he's taking a different approach. Like, okay, Alicent's not here right now. Let me approach my sister more calmly and rationally, and don't raise my voice, don't grab her, you know. So he thinks walking into this will work out better to his advantage if he kind of placates her almost to some degree, if he speaks calmly and softly to her. And yeah, we see him, he kind of like rubs his hands down her arm, you know, like he's using touch, you know, he's using touch. And Aemond never touches anybody, you know, he never touches anybody. It's like he's trying to manipulate Helena in this moment, but like, hey, you're my sister, we all love each other, you know. And Aemond is laying it all out again. He's like, we need to lay waste to Harrenhal and to Daemon's armies. We need to strike now. I need you to get on Dreamfire, please. And Helena, my God, you guys, wow. She turns to Aemond and she's like, why do you want me to do all this? Because will you burn me like you burned Aegon? So Helena saw it. She downright says to him, hey, I know what you did. I saw what you did. How dare you? And she lays out more of the prophecy. It's like she knows what's going on with Daemon's prophecy, and now she knows what's going on with Aegon and Aemond's prophecy. And she's saying to Aemond, Aegon will be king again. He will sit on a wooden throne, but you will be dead, swallowed by the god's eyes, never to be seen again. Oh, you guys, my God, seriously, wow, this whole sequence just threw me. I was like, damn. And Aemond, oh Lord, seriously, again, just the fantastic acting from Ewan Mitchell and Thea Savon in this sequence, you guys, especially Ewan Mitchell. Ewan Mitchell finally getting something to work with. You know, he has a lot of lines of dialogue here. He's getting to really emote and act. And Aemond, again, Aemond being so desperate in this whole damn episode. And now his sister has turned on him. He sees this as a betrayal. You know, he definitely sees this as a betrayal from someone in his own family, someone in his family who he thought he could count on. And yeah, he's sitting there saying what you speak of is treason. And it's like, Aemond, this is the queen. She's the queen. She can do whatever you want. Aemond underestimating her. That's just it. Aemond has underestimated his sister this entire time. And now she has put him in his place. And he's not quite sure what to do with that. And yeah, he's even threatening her, saying, I can have you killed. It's a bluff, though. I think it is a straight out bluff that he's threatening to kill her. Because he does... As aggressive as Aemond can be, I think he still loves his family in his own perverted, twisted way, and I think it's an absolute bluff that he's threatening to kill her, and she's kind of calling him on that bluff, like, go ahead if you want to, because it's not going to make a difference. What I have seen is going to come to pass. And yet, Ewan Mitchell's acting again, you guys, because again, he just has the one eye to work with, and he does a lot with that one eye, and you can see that there's a huge tear. There is a huge tear that is on the verge of about to run down his face, and it never does. I don't know how Ewan Mitchell controlled that one tear from slipping down. I don't know how he did that, but yeah, that tear is constantly there, and it allows Aemond to finally have this really human moment for once. His desperation and his fear and his uncertainty, and now kind of what he sees as a betrayal from Helena, you guys. Seriously, it was gripping. I loved it. So this whole thing, because I think it's really well done, having Daemon's sequence first and then Aemond's sequence here next, and how Helena's right there in the middle, tying all of this together with what she sees. And I think it's very obvious we're going to have something between Daemon and Aemond at some point, because we keep hearing Aemond, you know, he's wanting to strike at Daemon. You know, we keep hearing about he wants to go to Harrenhal and take out Daemon, this and that, and we know, because Ewan Mitchell has even said, you know, Aemond is the biggest fanboy of Daemon, you know, so Aemond is definitely he is rearing to go to fight against his uncle. So I think the placement of having these two sequences works out really great, and definitely foreshadows some really great things to come. And it's just interesting too, because prophecy in this world, and well, just any world, you know, any fictional world, prophecy is always a dangerous thing that's unpredictable, because there's the danger of listening to prophecy and then just turning it into a self-fulfilling prophecy, you know what I mean? So it's like Daemon and Aemond, they both have learned some pretty valuable, useful information, and I think it's going to be a thing of, are they going to run into that prophecy, you know, or are they going to try to steer clear of the prophecy, but instead they're just going to run right into it, you know. Again, self-fulfilling prophecy. I think Daemon and Aemond are really going to be struggling with that in the next season for sure, which I think will make for some interesting stuff, because they both have learned information that they're going to die, you know, because again, it's not explicitly said in Daemon's vision that he's going to die, but still the thing of him drowning, you know, I think that's a big hint of death, you know, water being a portent for doom and death. And yeah, Helena just straight up telling Aemon he's gonna die, you know. So it is, I think it's gonna be some really fascinating, juicy stuff going on next season, what Daemon and Aemon are going to do with this foresight and this foreknowledge, if they're just going to end up turning themselves into self-fulfilling prophecies at the end of the day. Okay, so we finally get to Rhaenyra arriving at Harrenhal, and she sees Daemon's army, and she's greeted by Simon Strong, and Simon's like, hey, we gotta get in there quick. I don't know what the hell's happening, you know. Simon Strong is really, he's really concerned. So we get into another fantastic sequence here, you guys, where Daemon is laying everything out for Rhaenyra, and you're not quite sure just yet where Daemon's loyalties are. I like how the sequence is played, because you don't know if he's for Rhaenyra or against Rhaenyra, and he finally lays it out for her, and he's telling her, hey, the world is not what we thought it was. This war is just the beginning. Winter is coming, hell yes. And our only hope is for someone who can unite the realm, and I believe it is you. Viserys made the right decision. And Daemon bends the knee. Yeah, guys, he bends the knee really publicly in front of this whole army, declaring it for everybody to hear and to see. Hey, let it be known, Daemon Targaryen did not flip his allegiances. He is here for his queen, for his wife. It was glorious. It was wonderful. And I kept thinking during this whole sequence with Matt Smith bending the knee to Rhaenyra, I just kept thinking, because I think there's a great sequence in The Crown, because Matt Smith played Prince Philip in The Crown. I think there's a great sequence in The Crown where Prince Philip like bends the knee to Queen Elizabeth in that, like pledging his fealty and loyalty to her. So this sequence was giving me those same vibes from The Crown, and I kind of loved the whole little weird parallel there for Matt Smith. And I think Rhaenyra, even though she has not told Daemon anything about the Song of Ice and Fire prophecy, from what he is saying, I think she is hearing that prophecy in his words, knowing, oh, he kind of knows about the prophecy, but I'm still not going to let him know that I know. Daemon gets up from the floor, he turns around to the army, raises his sword, and he's basically calling everybody to support Rhaenyra. And yeah, it's a marvelous moment, you guys, with everybody being like, yeah, hell yeah, Queen Rhaenyra. So I'm just so glad. I'm finally glad Daemon is back in full support of Rhaenyra, you guys. I mean, I don't know why we were concerned. All season, I think a lot of us were concerned that Daemon was going to flip, but I don't know why we were concerned. I think Daemon needed to go on this journey. You know, Daemon needed to have this wild, intense, crazy journey of all these miscellaneous random visions, because he needed to come to some hard truths about himself and his past, his present, his future. And yeah, it took a while to get there, but I think it was worth it for him to finally be in a more comfortable, vulnerable place. So we move on from that sequence into another really great sequence, you guys. Seriously, there was like several moments in a row that I was like, oh, I'm here for this. We have this great sequence with Alan and Corlys, you guys. A much needed sequence between Alan and Corlys. And Corlys, you know, Corlys has basically promoted Alan into like a better position, you know, of leadership, and the way Corlys is treating Alan, he's treating him almost like a little boy rather than a man. And like, hey, you should be grateful of the things that I have given you instead of brushing them off. You know, all these other men in your position would love to be given what I just so freely gave you. And I love that Alan just finally snaps, you guys. Just such a wonderful performance here. Alan just finally snaps, and he lays it out for Corlys like, you know, your son died, your daughter died, and now finally you come to me, you approach me, you finally recognize my existence, and you're giving me all these promotions, and you're offering me up certain things, because he's probably going to be offered up the Driftmark throne too at some point. And Alan, rightfully so, Alan feels, I think, kind of insulted by Corlys's behavior. Corlys not entirely realizing how he's coming across to Alan, you know, and yeah, Alan's like, your children lived in luxury and privilege, and yet me and my brother lived in poverty. We were hungry. And yeah, now you come to me? Now you come to me? And Corliss the whole time keeps trying to silence Alan, and I love that Alan just, he didn't give a fuck anymore. You know, like, I have been silent for all these years, and you're not going to silence me now. I don't care who you are. To me, I don't care. You're the hand of the queen. I'm going to lay out for you right now how frustrated and angry I am. You're going to listen to me right now. And yeah, Alan is shocked. You know, you can tell Alan, the actor, you can kind of tell he's kind of shocked that he's just spewing all this out. You know, but it's stuff that he's needed to say. He's needed to say all of this for years, and he finally just the relief of letting it go, you know? Kind of like Kristen Cole earlier in the episode with Gawain, you know, Kristen just needed to release everything that he has felt, you know, and Alan needs that moment here too to just let it out. And Corliss is shocked too, you know. Corliss doesn't realize how he's treated Alan and Adam. You know, he has no idea how he's treated his bastard sons, and now he's getting that cold hard truth and how it's all come across, and yeah, understanding Alan's kind of how he feels insulted in this moment. So this was a beautiful sequence. Corliss just facing it, you know, Corliss just taking it like a man, you know, just listening to it and not arguing back. He's just taking it in and listening to it, letting it sink in. And yet Alan just is like, okay, I'm done, let me go. Okay, you guys, I'm finally on page 2 of my notes. We're almost there. We're almost at the end game here. Okay, so we get a quick sequence with Mysaria and Rhaenyra, and Mysaria, once again, because Rhaenyra is still just in a really heavy place, you know, with everything that's happening, and Mysaria once again kind of being that person, giving her words of advice and wisdom, you know, and Mysaria's like, hey, the gods favor you, you have done the impossible, and Rhaenyra still has her doubts and concerns, and kind of this whole thing of, well, what is all of this going to be worth once this war is over, because there's still going to be bloodshed. We're still going to end up killing thousands upon thousands of people, not just people, you know, on the ground working at the military army, you know, the army level and whatnot, not just that, and not just the killing of our fellow kin, but just also small folk. You know, small folk are going to be huge casualties in this war, unfortunately. That's just the nature of war. And Rhaenyra is still really kind of reluctant about that whole thing, but I think she's kind of finally come to terms and acceptance, like, if that's what's gonna happen, that's just how it's gonna be, unfortunately. Okay, you guys, so we get into this final sequence of the episode, which I had to look. I had to look once the episode was over. I had to look and see how long this actual sequence was, because it felt like a very long sequence. This sequence between Alicent and Rhaenyra, you guys, I think was pretty much like 10 whole minutes long. It is lengthy. And Alicent, I guess with the help of Maester Orwyle, she got her own little boat somehow out of there, and she arrives on Dragonstone. Seriously, how do people just sneak around? There is absolutely no security in Westeros. Nobody gives a damn about anything. People can just walk willy-nilly into King's Landing. People can just walk into Dragonstone. For the love of God. But yeah, Alicent is not really sneaking into Dragonstone, because Rhaenyra is woken up, you know, by her one Kingsguard guy. So it's like Alicent's making it very clear, like, hey, I'm coming in. I'm not sneaking in. I'm coming in. I'm letting you know I'm coming in. So Alicent has arrived at Dragonstone. You guys, to see Rhaenyra. I was not expecting to see another Alicent and Rhaenyra scene, like, for a long time on this show. I thought was it episode 3? Yeah, I thought episode 3 was going to be it for their interaction, so this was pretty shocking that they had this scene, you guys. And this is one of those sequences that at the start of this review I was talking about. This episode is just going to be very divisive for a lot of fans, because I think this sequence is, again, like episode 3, another one of those divisive moments. Like, it's like you really love that they're having this conversation, but at the same time, it is agency being taken away from these characters almost. It's kind of hard to say. So I wrote down so much here, you guys. I'm just going to kind of get through as much as I can here. Alicent is basically saying, hey, I lost my way, but I have finally found myself again. She reveals within this conversation at some point, she's like, oh, I have a lover now, and she doesn't say who her lover is. I bet anything Rhaenyra will figure out that it's Kristen Cole. I mean, who else? For the love of God, who else could it be that Alicent's having an affair with? And they're both kind of hashing out their hypocrisy in this scene as well, because yeah, Alicent's revealing, hey, she had a lover. After everything she put Rhaenyra through too, you know, accusing Rhaenyra of having a lover and sleeping around, and Alicent's gone and done the same thing too, you know. So they're hashing out all their hypocrisies. The fact that they've both done the exact identical things, you know, kind of in different ways, but still they've done the same things. And yeah, Alicent's admitting, hey, I hung onto my virtue because you disdained your own virtue. And the whole point of Alicent coming to Dragonstone, Alicent, you get the idea, Alicent's had enough. That confrontation with Aemond forcefully grabbing Helena in the manner that he did, I think that's just the final straw for Alicent at this point, that she needs to protect what's left of her family. I think Aemond to her is just too far gone. She can't protect or save Aemond anymore. It's like, I think she's going to be treating Aemond like he's already dead to her at this point. She tried, you know, that one sequence right before he dismissed her from the council, you know, she tried to go up to him, tried to look in his face and force him to look at her, touched his face even, you know, as a sign of affection, and he turned her away, he dismissed her from the council, you know. Yet Aemond is dead to her now, I think, and he's too far gone. She can't do anything about that. Yeah, she can't really do much about Aegon either at the moment. We don't know what's going on with Darren. And then, yeah, Helena, I think she's always had a lot of concern for Helena's safety, you know, and I think right now more than anything, she just wants her and Helena and Jaehaera to get out of there and just make it back at a later point. So Alicent's essentially pleading and begging for peace in this entire sequence, and Rhaenyra is her only hope for this. Alicent is essentially committing treason, yeah guys. She is committing treason in this moment by even going to Rhaenyra and basically telling Rhaenyra this is what is going on. Aemond is heading off to Harrenhal. That's going to leave King's Landing open. Helena will be there as queen. She will let you in and you can just walk right into King's Landing and take the Iron Throne. We're not going to stop you. There's not going to be any bloodshed. End of story. But Rhaenyra's not stupid. You know, Rhaenyra's not stupid, and she's basically saying, well, what about Aegon? He can still take the throne. And we go back to the whole thing of a son for a son. Yeah, guys, this is how the whole season started, with a son for a son, and now Rhaenyra is finally demanding that whole thing. And I guess you get the idea. Rhaenyra, if you want me to come into King's Landing and do this peacefully, I need Aegon dead. I need to kill Aegon, and I need to do it openly and publicly in front of people for my claim to work and for it to make sense. I can't just come on in and just be a straight out a conqueror, you know. I need to kill the opposition. And this is what Alicent's problem has been, you know. Alicent, she loves her children, you know, even though her children kind of treat her and misuse her. The thing is, in her own way, she does love her children. Everything she has done has been for her children. And in this moment, Rhaenyra is asking a lot of Alicent. Can Alicent give up Aegon? Can she sacrifice Aegon? And it's a rough scene. It's a rough sequence here. Both Emma Darcy and Olivia Cook, just the tears, you know, they have tears in their eyes. They are struggling. They are both mothers. Rhaenyra understands the pain of losing a child, and here she is asking a fellow mother, hey, will you let me kill one of your sons? So it's putting both women in a very difficult, vulnerable, unpredictable position, and it's painful. Seriously, again, Emma Darcy and Olivia Cook's performances are absolutely captivating and wonderful. And again, this sequence is like 10 freaking minutes long, yeah guys, and we needed this. We needed this lengthy sequence for these two to just let this all come out. And after much hesitation, because there's a pretty lengthy pause when Rhaenyra's like, hey, a son for a son. There's a pretty lengthy pause here, and Alicent's kind of just pacing around. You know, she's thinking, she's trying to think, and I think she's trying to think, is there a loophole? You know, is there some sort of loophole I can get around this? And I think she comes to the realization there is no loophole. And I think the realization too Alicent is about to lose every single one of her children. Again, Aemond is dead to her. I think she has kind of accepted that if he goes out there to Harrenhal and he gets killed, then so be it, you know. Yeah, she's going to sacrifice Aegon. Again, she's not sure about what Darren's position is, if she can protect and save him, but she can protect and save Helena, you know. She can at least do something for one of her children. So Alicent and Rhaenyra come to a very uneasy alliance, and Alicent agrees. You guys, she agrees, a son for a son, and this whole thing will be enacted in 3 days' time. My God. And Rhaenyra is saying to Alicent, you're doing all this, and people will not know what you gave up and what you sacrificed, and history will paint you a villain. Oh, and Alicent does not care. Alicent just wants freedom. She wants to be free to be herself, to make her own decisions for once, because her choices and decisions have always been denied her. She was forced to marry at a young age. She was forced to have children at a young age. She was forced to watch as her children turned into the monsters that they became because she was not a good mother. So she has never had any sort of freedom to herself, and I think that's the whole point of her walking alone out in the forest. Was she finally felt that freedom out there, and it felt great. And she's finally at peace and comfortable with herself. So again, with this uneasy alliance that seems to be happening here in 3 days time, Rhaenyra and Alicent depart, you guys, and it's pretty shocking stuff, I found, but so well acted. And we end the episode and we have this wonderful montage, you guys. Seriously, this whole ending was beautiful and spectacular. And the MVP of this episode has to go to Ramin Djawadi, who does the music for this show. Ramin Djawadi has such gorgeous music playing on top of this montage. I can listen to it on repeat. Seriously, I'm gonna track down this piece of music and just play it on repeat. It was that beautiful. So I'm gonna go through the list of everything that is happening here as we go through this montage, because Rhaenyra and Alicent are departing from one another. All those really great slow-mo sequences of Alicent walking away. So we have a montage. We see Hugh, Ulf, and Adam. They are suiting up in their dragon rider outfits. We see Rhaena find this crazy wild dragon out in the middle of nowhere. We see the high towers. We see Darren on his dragon. You guys, we see this gorgeous blue dragon fly by, which I believe is Darren's dragon. But yeah, we do not see Darren himself. So I'm assuming we'll get a casting update on Darren next season. We get the biggest shock of our lives, you guys. Otto Hightower has been imprisoned. My God, how long has he been imprisoned? Who has imprisoned him? Why? I have so many questions. That is all we get from Rhys Ifans in this episode, you guys. He just lifts up his head and there he is in a prison somewhere for some unknown reason. I can't wait to see what that's about. We also see the Starks coming in. We see the Lannisters coming in. I loved how the music would subtly shift as we kind of changed to different characters and different groups, because like their individual themes would start playing, because like the Starks, I think you can kind of hear some of that Stark music in the background, and then like the Lannisters, you start to hear the Reigns of Castamere playing, which was so epic and so great. And then yeah, we see Daemon with his army. We see the Triarchy is sailing. We see Corlys and Alan are sailing, and we end with Larys and Aegon. They are escaping. Yeah, guys, they're just like in this little wooden cart and they're escaping from King's Landing. I think they mentioned I think Larys mentioned at some point they're going to Bravos because he has like money from Harrenhal like stored up at the Iron Bank and whatnot. So what's going to happen to Larys and Aegon, you guys? I mean, is this it for them? Are we even going to see them next season? I'm hoping we still get to see Larys and Aegon next season, even if it's just for small dosages, because I have a feeling all next season it's going to be all these big epic battles. And yeah, the episode ends and we see Alicent and Rhaenyra, two mothers, forced to make some really terrible, rough, tough decisions. And yeah, they have hard choices and a war